Hey y'all, Flipper Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today as we are going to take a look at this beautiful Winterblade Co. The Factor. This is the B3 model. Brian from Winterblade Co. was kind enough to reach out and ask if I would be interested in doing a review of this knife. And not being a complete and total idiot, your boy Fred said, hell yeah, thank you very much. So thanks to Brian for sending this over for review. I know that when people review knives that they received for a review, the natural thing, I've done it myself, is, oh, well, great, your review here is going to be biased. And yeah, okay, maybe. I don't know how to fix that. There's no way I can really counter that argument other than to say, we're going to take a look at some of the other knives that I have told you are my favorite EDC knives of all time, and we're going to see if there might be any kind of comparisons between this one and some of those. But before we get started, as always, if you would please down below here, hit that subscribe button, notification bell. If you got to bail out early, give your boy Fred a thumbs up. If not, throw me a thumbs down. Let me know what I did wrong. Before we get started into the specs and whatnot, we'll take a quick look at the box that this thing came in. It is a nice cardboard Winterblade branded box. He's got his little nylon branded pouches, a little fuzzy on this side. It's actually kind of nice little pouches. You've seen these before. You can actually carry two knives in if you're going on the road. I do kind of like that. The other thing you get is a sticker. That is a cool little sticker. It's got a really awesome brand. He does a good job in his marketing and branding and the whole style and aesthetic that he has designed for this brand. I'm a big fan of that. I know it's a personal preference and taste kind of thing. Some people may not like it. Some people do. I'm one of the people actually who do like the way he has branded and really the aesthetic he uses on all of his knives. You can certainly see a very consistent look to all of the knives that he has designed. All right, let's take a quick peek at some size comps. Again, to me, this is like the perfect EDC Goldilocks size. It is much shorter than the Benchmade 𝗥𝗏𝘁𝗏𝗏 and even shorter still than the Benchmade Bug Out by, I'm going to say, a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch shorter there than the Bug Out, which is still good for EDC size for all my Spyderco fans. We have the PM2 and the Para3 to compare it to. Obviously, it's going to be shorter than the PM2. Still a little bit shorter, a little bit less this time, maybe 1/4 to ½ inch shorter overall than the Para3. I know the angle of this camera makes that look a little funny sometimes. Let's take a look at maybe some more modern knives that have come out recently. You've got the 𝗪𝗶𝘁𝘁𝗏𝗍 FG, and what I have just declared 2 weeks ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago in a video, to be my new absolute all-time favorite EDC carry knife, which is the 𝗪𝗵𝘁 One of the reasons I want to show you this, I'll bring a couple of more out that you've also seen in my absolute favorites lists and selections, and I'm just wondering if by chance you might see any kind of consistency. Is it subjective? Yeah, of course it's subjective. It's what I like. That's why you're here watching the videos, is to find out what Fred thinks about these knives. All of them have that sheep's footy style blade, okay, right? My new favorite is the closest in all of them. They all have that sheep's footy style blade, little bit of belly for a little extra cutting. These are all my favorite knives, but I'm going to compare these two, and this is kind of the argument that I'm making as to, is my review biased or not? Well, if this was my favorite all-time knife, and I loved it because of the size of the handle, of the forward choke-up finger choil there, of the sheep's foot style blade, great for draw cuts with a little bit of a belly to it, nice easy action. So let's see, how would this compare to that? Well, it's got about the same size. I wear a size large glove in case you're wondering about the size of the hand versus the knife. Oh, look, it has a choke up forward choil just like the other one. And wait, it's a sheep's foot style blade and it has a little bit of a belly and it's drop shut. Can't imagine why your boy Fred might like this knife, right? All right, let's take a quick peek at some of the specs. I'll pull them up on the left. We'll just do a quick rundown. This is a little bit over 7 inches long, 7.12. The blade is 3 inches, but you've really got about 2 3/4 or so of actual cutting edge because of that choil. The blade thickness, nice and thin. Another reason I love EDC knives. Very thin, tall, flat, slicey blade. Handle thickness is a hair under ½ inch, so certainly nice and comfortable in the hand. The blade finish is obviously a stone washed finish. This is a titanium, full handles, both sides are titanium. I know some of them are aluminum with some carbon fiber. He's done a mix of those. This one is all titanium, M390 stone wash blade. Very nice. Came very sharp out of the box. We'll take a look at that. Runs on what he calls the M-lock, which is a first of its kind for the industry. Everything in this knife is magnetic. There is no detent ball. There is no other lock mechanism besides that M-lock. We'll look a bit deeper on that in just a minute. The model he sent me comes with what he calls the teal blend 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝗿𝗄𝗏 pocket clip. To me, this one is just perfect for me. This is right up my alley. So in certain lights, you can see it almost kind of disappears. It almost blends back in, and I actually love that about this knife, that it's not too overly gaudy. I don't want to use that word because I do love even full color 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝗿𝗄𝗏 as well. However, I like this teal. It does kind of blend. It's not too overstated, in my opinion. So anyhow, it's just, again, a personal preference. But anyhow, they're beautiful, and I love it. You don't see teal 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝗏𝗏 very often. So that's pretty cool. I did measure behind the edge of the blade and got down to at least a 14/1000ths, and I'm willing to bet I probably could have measured it a little bit thinner than that. It's just so hard to get those calipers, just that fraction of a millimeter down on the blade. The M390 seal is an HRC of 60 to 61, which is great. That's perfectly right in the range, a little bit on the nicer side of that range. All right, so what are the reasons that you love this blade is because it sings. I'm going to be quiet for a second and see if you can hear this. It makes that ting sound every time you open it. I hope that's coming through because I know this microphone isn't great and sometimes you can't hear it as well. Let's just see. Hopefully you're hearing that. Every time you flip it out, it makes that beautiful ting sound. That makes this much more of a total experience than just a regular pocket knife. Biggest factor, again, as I mentioned, everything is magnetic. So the biggest factor of the factor, how about that? Magnets on both sides back here, magnets in the lock mechanism. I think there's an extra magnet up here as well. So when you pull that lock bar back, that's a magnet. There are no springs anywhere in this knife. That is literally being pulled back and forth by magnets. These magnets will last well over 100 years before they lose their magnetism. That's what they say anyhow. I won't be around to find that out. Maybe you will. Oh, also magnets back here in the flipper bar, which is carbon fiber. That's pretty cool as well, too. There's magnets down here that grab that blade, so there's no blade bounce on this thing. No matter how hard you close it, it's not going to bounce out because the magnets grab and hold that sucker. To me, that's just way cool. It's kind of first of its kind in many of those ways. We've already looked at the pocket clip. It's T8 hardware everywhere. That's pretty nice. The pivot clip is pretty cool. It is a captive pivot on that side. Use a quarter, a nickel, some kind of soft material like that to unscrew your pivot. Easy to do. I have done it. No big deal there. Plenty of videos out there as well. Some people have complained about the ergonomics because when the knife is open, you obviously have a bit of a gap back here. To me, that doesn't mean anything at all. And especially when I'm choked up, it actually feels less of an issue when I'm choked up using that finger choil right there. The pocket clip doesn't get in my way at all. However, some people don't like it. So he does make a models or inserts. You can even buy aftermarket parts of a little carbon fiber wraparound shell that will basically delete the flipper tab and add a solid wraparound piece right there to improve those ergonomics if you're one of those people. I can't imagine why anybody would want to do that to this knife. One of the biggest things about this knife, I'm tired of saying one of the biggest factors about the factor. One of the biggest things that people love, or I love, is that flipper tab. It's so cool. It's fully ambidextrous. It works just as well lefty as it does righty. How about that? I didn't mention it, but I should have, is what I'm trying to say. The pocket clip is, of course, reversible on both sides there. No issues with that. All right, the difference between the B2 and the B3, one of the biggest ways you'll tell them apart is this ramp that goes down to where you would access for either front flipping with your thumb, which is certainly plenty easy to do. I love the Spidey flick or the finger flick in the back, the reverse flip. But, I mean, you just have to flip this knife almost as much with that flipper tab is what makes it kind of fun there. The lock is, I don't think I have done this yet, but man, that lock is solid. So not only is it unique and different from any other lock out there in the market, it's strong as hell. It does not, I mean, I have whacked the hell out of this thing. I do that with confidence because I did it very carefully the first time. Don't try that at home, kids. However, this thing is solid, a great, very strong lock. All right, we've already kind of touched on this thing, the blade M390, very tall, very slicey. This is one of those, and we all, you probably have at least one or two of these. When you get down to that edge, it almost feels like your fingertips are touching each other through that metal. It is incredibly thin and slicey down here at the tip of that blade. It's going to be kind of hard to see and get this thing to focus on. But it is a really nice slicey blade. Runs on ceramic bearings. You've been seeing that kind of close. That magnetic lock is very smooth. I don't experience any lock stick on it. You know, it's almost hard to tell because it's a magnet, but there's nothing sticking in any way on this knife at least. So incredibly smooth. The sound, that ting sound is just really just puts it over the top for me. Magnetic detent is excellent. I'm going to take this out because obviously this the flipper tab is pushing on that blade, so that almost adds a little bit of pressure to the detent, not much, but there is a magnet holding that in place, so it gives a little bit. So I'll pull that out of the way just so we can see the detent. This is all just magnets. Again, there's no detent ball anywhere on this knife, and you can see how those magnets pull that blade right in there. That to me is a perfectly easily dialed in. Can you fail it? Yep, you can fail it. You have to try to fail it. It doesn't take much effort at all. And the beauty about this long finger hole is, you know, if you have big hands or if you naturally like to pull it from the bottom, there's all the way down there you can pull it from, or you can ride it right up here at the very top of that hole, and just as easy either way you want to have it there. Let's talk about some negatives to this knife. The one thing that I guess people would say when you pay this much money for a knife, it's going to be hard to get a centered blade, okay? And here's why. Everything that holds that blade in there are magnets. Now, of course, the pivot is holding the blade in there also, and I don't have that pivot cranked down super tight. You're not really supposed to. So perhaps that would change things a little bit, but what I want you to see is that magnet in there. So obviously you can see the magnet in there right above my pinky, and then this little white nub, that's a little rubber nub thing that holds the blade off of that magnet back there in the back. So it's trying to assist with making sure that when that blade comes down, that it can't be sucked up against that magnet. It's kind of holding it off that magnet. I don't know, y'all. I mean, you can look. Is it absolutely 100% perfectly centered? Crap, I don't know, y'all. I mean, it's pretty darn centered in my book. I don't care, plenty centered for me, but I have to find something wrong with this knife. Let me tell you one other thing. Well, of course, there's those people who don't like this gap back here and feel like that gives them a hot spot, so I can empathize with that. I can certainly see how some people might feel that way. Doesn't bother me in the least, but I can understand why some people would. And then jimping. There's no jimping on this blade. And, you know, again, I kind of see the pros and cons of both of that. Would I like to have a little extra jimping up here? Yeah. Do I feel like this is not absolutely locked into my hand 100%? No, this is beautifully locked in. I don't have any concerns that this is going to slip out of my hand when I'm gripping it in this way. But I always love to have a little jimping if they can put a little jimping. However, again, there's a very clear design aesthetic that he's going for with this knife and has achieved. He's got beautiful lines going from here to here. Some jimping would certainly interfere with that clean lines all the way around this thing, which I get. So I understand why, from aesthetics perspective, you might not want to put any jimping on there. And there's also kind of a thin spot here. So if you start cutting into this bar, is that going to weaken up this part of the blade? Would that ever be an issue? I can't imagine, but, you know, I'm just trying to look for reasons and pros and cons of both there. So it doesn't bother me that there's no jimping, but I'm trying to nitpick this thing, so y'all will see that really I am trying to give it an honest review here. To me, I love the ergonomics of it. I always loved the finger choil. We started with that a while ago. I love the blade shape, the style, the belly, the curve, the draw cuts. There's still just enough pointiness to this thing. I mean, if you had to dig out a splinter with that, you could still do it. It's not the pointiest knife you ever had, but definitely pointy enough to cut into stuff, anything that you might need on an EDC type basis. You know, there might be an occasion if I had to go out and do some hard work in the yard or you know, some other work-related task where I just really needed a hard-use knife, I probably wouldn't carry this. Again, the obvious thing is obviously magnets throughout this knife. So if you work in an area that has metal shavings floating through the air, first, I feel really bad for you. Hopefully you're wearing a mask. But even if, you set this down on a desk and there's metal shavings there for some, whatever, don't use this knife around metal shavings, y'all. If that's going to be an issue, you probably don't want to carry this knife. But for the rest of the world, which is going to be most of us, you probably don't have to worry about that. I will tell you the other thing you might worry about are putting it in your pocket and it's attracting keys. So this is just another magnet. I'm trying to see what it'll stick to. It's not really an issue on these titanium scales with this this nice bit of texturing. I didn't even mention that, but I do like that. It definitely adds a little bit of grippiness in that texture there. And even the ramps help a little bit with the lockup in your hand. But you could end up attracting your keys to this if you put it in your pocket with your car keys. Maybe your key ring would get attracted to this over time. That could potentially scratch if the magnet's, it's sticking to the magnet and it's rubbing around. I'm not worried about it at all with this titanium. Hasn't been an issue for me. You can see there's no marks on the knife. I certainly have carried it for a few days. Haven't really put it through any particular hard use scenarios yet at this point. I'll probably do that coming up. But I mean, really, y'all, it almost feels silly to do like a sharpness test, a cut test on a real M390 blade. Y'all know what kind of knives we normally review here. So I guess the question, did it come sharp out of the box? Yeah, it came sharp. Sorry, that was your buddy not holding his paper or knife right. I got it before that choil. Yeah, the knife came wonderfully sharp, plenty sharp out of the box. Can I sharpen it more? Of course I can sharpen it more. Will I? Probably not, because this is more than adequate for what I need for my daily functions. All right, so bring this thing home. Why do you like this knife? Why does a person love this knife? I've kind of already explained all of that. It's a complete kind of experience. You have the fidgetiness. Just made that up. I'm sure somebody else has too. Fidgetiness of this knife. It is incredibly fidgety. Thank God I work alone, because any office coworkers would have long since kicked me out. What the hell is that ding and how do you turn it off? So definitely wins the Fidget Factor Award. Super cool functions with the, stuff you don't normally get on a knife, like the flipper tab, the magnets. This is a historical value in and of itself because of all the wonderful things that no other knife has done before with the magnetic locks, a magnetic detent system. It definitely has its own very unique design aesthetic. I know it'll appeal to some and it won't to others. It works great for me. The branding is minimal. It's actually kind of light. He didn't use a very dark ink to put the name and the blade steel on this blade. You have to hit it really in just the right light to be able to see it at all. In almost all other light, that name disappears. So I really like that. I thought that was a cool thing. Love the flipper tab, love the sound, love that 𝗪𝗪𝘁 clip. I like the full titanium scales. It feels absolutely solid, but not heavy. The size is absolutely perfect, as I have said many times, for me and what I want for my perfect everyday carry. Love the style of blades, the thin sliciness. Would I recommend it? Yeah, of course I would recommend it. I've just explained a million reasons why. Am I biased because he sent me this knife for review? Hell, I don't know. I just explained all the reasons why I like it. It certainly isn't that far off if you think about what I used to say was my former favorite knife of all time. Hopefully you can see those. So, I mean, that being the case, if I wasn't biased on that, then I'm not being biased on this. How about that? There you go. Either way, I want to thank Brian so much for sending this for review. Y'all know I don't get many opportunities to review knives like these, and I think Brian knew that too, and he was just being super cool to me to even offer for me to do this review of his knife. He just kind of knew that this was my style, and I would be really, really happy to have a chance to review it. So thanks so much for that, Brian. I do appreciate it. Go check his website out. Here's the bad news. Unfortunately, I don't think you can even get the regular size Factor anymore. I don't think these are available. I just checked his website before I started this video, and what he has available for pre-order right now are the 8s, which is simply the upsized version of this knife, which would also be cool. And the 𝗪𝗪𝘁, which is kind of the semi-automatic, pull the little tab and a magnet launches that blade out to the lock position, and then the 𝗪𝗏𝘁, which I'm not sure it has magnets in it. I don't know. One of them doesn't have magnets in it. The 𝗪𝗏𝘁 is super cool as well. There's videos galore out there. Go check his website. I don't get paid anything for doing the review. I don't have any affiliate or marketing relationship. I'm not going to make any money if you buy any knives from him. So there's nothing like that going on. But definitely go check him out. I mean, if this is something that's up your alley, he makes a bunch of knives like this that are just so unique in and of themselves from anything else that's out there. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense and doesn't seem like, I'm too biased. This is a truly unique and different from anything else out there, right? Whether you think it is or not. So thanks so much again for your time. I appreciate y'all sticking with me through this video. Always appreciate any subscribes and likes and notification bells. Hit the thumbs up, hit the thumbs down. You're welcome to blast me in the comments. Tell me I'm a shill. But I still love y'all, and I definitely appreciate everybody who has been with me all this time. I got a big giveaway I'm working on coming up for all of our subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber, I would encourage you to do that just so you can get some free knives. Otherwise, thanks y'all so much. I will talk to you soon on the next video. Y'all have a great day. Take care.